Hello and welcome to Bloomberg Quint. The telecom industry recently has been going through a lot of interesting developments. The spectrum auction has just closed. A new player has also created big disruptions in the market. And to speak on that and a host of other issues, we have with us Mr. R.S. Sharma, Chairman, TRAI. Sir, thank you so much for speaking to Bloomberg Quint and welcome to this interview.
You're welcome.
So, sir, to start with, I would like to ask on the spectrum auction that has just closed. As you might be aware, there's also a generic perception that even though this was not a failed auction, this was a subdued auction in comparison to the other ones. I would like to understand your perspective on that, sir.
I will not call it subdued or failed, and these are all adjectives which really do not fit there. This was a very successful auction, and whosoever wanted to buy whichever spectrum they bought, there was no scarcity of the spectrum on offer, and that was our objective also, because as you must have noticed, many times the telecom service providers, when we talk of quality of service to the customers, we are told that because they do not have adequate spectrum, therefore they are not able to provide the quality of service. Though my belief is that the spectrum is only one of the ingredients to make the recipe called quality of service. But nevertheless, we did not want that complaint also to subsist, and we decided that all the auction must be put, all the spectrum must be put to auction, so that at least this excuse or this kind of complaint that we don't have a spectrum goes away. My view is that everybody bought what they wanted to buy.
All right. So basically, what you're saying is that from now on, when the question comes on quality of service, lack of spectrum would not be a reason.
Certainly.
All right. And those who are on the other side of the debate have one point that they raise, is that the 700 band didn't get sold. Right?
Right.
Mr. Sunil Mittal was speaking on the sidelines of the Indian Economic Forum, and he called it a missed opportunity. That there was interest, but the price was so high, and the pricing has been an issue before the spectrum auction happened. I would like to understand your position now. What is there on that?
I don't think it's a missed opportunity, because the spectrum is available, and obviously as and when the government decides to sell it, it can be put to auction again. So there is no missed opportunity. The only thing was that that spectrum was not picked up by the industry.
So when that comes for auction again, would you be considering lowering the prices, or would you stick to the same argument that the TRAI had before the auction?
There is a set process as to how the reserve price of these spectrum are determined and are recommended by the TRAI. So the process is that the government makes a request to TRAI saying that we want to put this spectrum to auction. You please suggest a reserve price. TRAI conducts a consultative process, consults all these stakeholders, and then applies a number of set processes and formulations which essentially are industry applicable worldwide when you come to a reserve price or a particular spectrum band. So those will be applied, and that's how it happens.
Yes.
So if the government makes a reference to us, and then when they make the reference, we will undergo through this process and then recommend the price.
So basically, you're not giving a definite commitment as of yet, but what you're saying is that you're open to the consultation process and both the options are on the table.
We do not give commitments like that,
Yes.
because the process of TRAI is actually very, very consultative and open.
Yes.
So as and when the opportunity arises or a cause arises, we will have the consultation and then come up with whatever that consultation results in, whatever the stakeholder views are, what the industry situation at that point in time is, and other factors.
Yes, sir. So moving on, I will now come to the launch of the new player, and on the sidelines of that, there has been a lot of he said, she said battle, and I won't draw you into that. But on some of the specific issues where the regulator has been involved, say POI. Now on POI, sir, you had issued a show cause notice, and the telecom companies had to reply on that. Where does it go from here now?
See, let me make it one thing very clear. The point of interconnect or interconnecting various network is one of the most important issues in telecom sector. If there is no point of interconnection, then there is no network. so to say. Otherwise, X operator's client will talk to other X operator's client. If you want to have a network, you need to have point of interconnect. And there are very clear rules on the issue governing the point of interconnect. We are not, getting into the dispute as to who has provided how many interconnects and things like that. We are on the issue of consumer protection. See, I do not differentiate between consumers of operator X or consumers of operator. They all have equal rights.
Yes.
And every consumer has a right to make calls, uninterrupted calls, and he should be facilitated by all these stakeholders, all the operators, so that he is able to call anybody in the network, irrespective of whether that other party belongs to the same operator or to the other. So to me, this is, to the TRAI, this is the most important part. And we look at this problem from a consumer protection point of view. There is a benchmark of 0.5% call failures on the point of interconnect, which means only 5, as much as 5 calls, up to 5 calls per 1,000 can fail because of point of interconnect congestion. Unfortunately, the call failure rate is way too high, and therefore we had asked a show cause, issued show cause. First of all, we reviewed the situation from 15 September to 19 September for 5 days. Then we found that it was unexceptionably high, very, very high, and therefore we asked for show cause notices to all of the concerned operators. Last Monday, we have issued directions to the telecom service providers to ensure that they comply with the benchmarks of call failures on the point of interconnect. We have received the response to show cause notice from the operators. We are processing it, and we will take appropriate action.
So another issue that was raised was the tariff issue, on which some of the CEOs met you, and what we got to know was that you were assured that you will look into it. Now there has been some time after that. Has there been any movement on that
Tariff issue?
The Jio tariff issue, sir?
Some service providers had said that the tariff plans offered by Jio are IUC non-compliant, predatory, and discriminatory. We had got that letter. We are examining that letter. We have also called for the comments and the response of the operator against whom that charge was made. And we will take a view very quickly, next week probably.
All right.
Sure.
So, in this whole Jio battle that's been going on, as I said, I won't draw you into the he said, she said, but some of the people have raised a point that this wouldn't have become that big an issue had there not been certain regulatory gaps. Do you think it's a fair assessment? I'll give you an example. When it comes to TRAI, before the Jio launch happened, there were a lot of issues. Somebody said this defines the trial in terms of number of consumers, the time period, and somebody said had their own view. So do you think that now you will look into defining what exactly constitutes a trial, and is this argument that there were regulatory gaps fair according to you?
No, let me put it this way, that we had got this complaint that the trial and the number of customers which are being made in that trial are not in conformity with the licenses and the conditions mentioned therein. We had brought this to the notice of the DOT, and DOT had referred it to us. There were actually in the current license, there are no stipulation in regard to the number of customers or the trial period. So the DOT has made a formal reference to us, and we will carry out a consultative process to actually fix wherever there are such gaps which were not envisaged earlier.
Yes. Okay. So I'll move on to another topic. Now, whether you agree or disagree, you have had a reputation of taking on the big people. On net neutrality last year, that got you global trending. Now that paper, I think, or separate paper on net neutrality is back again. So for the benefit of our viewers, if you can explain as to what is different from that in this paper, and by when can we expect the recommendations?
You seem to taking on the big people as if that is my hobby.
No. I mean, that's not me saying, sir, but there has been
I try to do the right thing to the best of my capability. And if that is construed or sort of interpreted as taking on big people.
Well, on Twitter,
I have nothing to,
Twitter it did.
I have nothing to say.
Yes, yes.
Let me explain to you the basic philosophy or the basic rationale behind the principle of network neutrality. What is the principle of network neutrality states that the networks must be neutral to the data which passes through it, which means where the data comes from, where the data goes to, or what the data contains, what the packet contains. Networks must be neutral to that. Similarly, networks must also not provide fast lanes or throttle any traffic. This is very important from the perspective that, let's take an example. And I'll give you just one example to understand as to what consequences can non-following of this principle have. There are a lot of things which are being done in our country on riding on the internet. Internet actually is a vehicle of growth in some sense, and as you know, the 10% penetration of internet results into 1.5% GDP growth.
Yes.
So I think it's a very important part. Now, unless we ensure that the internet is open to all, it remains an open platform, a lot of distortions can be set in. Just to give you an example, recently government has announced that India Post will be a payment bank. And there are many telecom operators also who have got payment bank licenses. Now, if telecom operators are allowed to give differential treatment to the tariff, to the packets flowing through them, telecom operators can decide that whenever the person is doing banking with my bank, I will give him free access, fast lane, and very beautiful experience.
Right.
And because India Post does not have any telecom network, they can say, oh, if you are doing banking with India Post, I will apply, I'll do throttling, I'll charge more money, for example, and stuff like that. So therefore, I think this will create a lot of distortions. So what we had done in February of this year through the differential pricing tariff, differential pricing order, was that we had said that the telecom service providers shall not differentiate on the basis of where the traffic comes from, where it goes to, and what it contains.
Yes.
It is similar to saying that a toll road provider merely will charge toll and will not be concerned with where the truck has come from, where the truck is going to, and what the truck contains. That's not their job. So this is broadly the principle of network neutrality. We had covered three parts, which means the where it comes from, where it goes to, and what it contains, and made it non-differentiated in some sense, or pipes being agnostic to that from a tariff perspective. So you can loosely say that the TRAI have dealt with the net neutrality issue from a tariff angle. But as I said, net neutrality is much larger than this, which means it contains throttling, fast lanes, and many other issues, it may have. So therefore, government had actually given us, requested us to carry out a consultative process, a comprehensive consultation on net neutrality, and then provide recommendations. So after that request which we got, we had issued a pre-consultation paper, and that pre-consultation process is complete, and we have got the comments and counter comments, and we are finally in the process of drafting a consultation paper on net neutrality.
Okay. And by when can we expect this consultation?
I think this is a fairly comprehensive consultation paper. I hope that within the next, by the end of this month, hopefully we should be able to bring out the consultation paper.
All right, sir. So before I end this interview, a final question on the general industry perspective. In the last few months, we've seen a corporate rivalry, but we've also seen a lot of cooperation, in the sense that there have been some mergers, there have also been arrangements, say, on spectrum sharing, etc. And that, in a sense, has led to a consolidation in the industry. From your perspective, how do you view this, and do you think that this process will go on, or have we reached a certain saturation?
My request to my telecom service provider friends is we have built a world-class network in this country. India is really proud of the contribution which telecom industry has done to the country. You know, today we have 1 billion plus mobile connections. Today we have large number of smartphones going at the rate of 25 millions per quarter. Today we have 11 billion minutes India is talking.
Yes.
The data play is beginning to happen. So it's a great network which has been created by our industry. My request is that as you have built a world-class network, please provide world-class service to our people also. So that's where it is. And you know, the government have been at the forefront in the sense that we have provided, the government have provided spectrum sharing, spectrum trading, lot of the virtual network operators.
Yes.
So regulatory, regulation wise, we are pretty, modern and pretty looking forward. We are looking forward to technology having, its march, because ultimately it's a technology-driven sector. And therefore, however technology can be leveraged to provide better customer service, to provide better transparent, systems, I think it will be a great thing for our country.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for joining us
You are
on the
welcome.
and thank you for your time.